For today's video, we're going to talk about all things cervicogenic headache. We're going to show you how to diagnose if you might be suffering a cervicogenic headache, how to treat cervicogenic headaches with exercise and manual therapy, which exercises on the internet you should avoid so that you don't make your cervicogenic headaches worse, and finally, we're going to look at prevention. How do you stop future cervicogenic headaches? Let's get into a complete guide to cervicogenic headache relief. Do you suffer frequent headaches and do you also have neck pain? If you answer yes to these questions, then you may be suffering what's called cervicogenic headaches, a headache disorder that starts from the upper neck. Today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the signs and symptoms of cervicogenic headache, so maybe you can identify if you're possibly suffering from cervicogenic headache, and we're going to give you a couple really easy tests that you can do at home to maybe get some information on if you need to seek someone out for a care for this particular disorder. Let's get in the video and let's take a look at some of the tests. Welcome back to another episode of Physio Tips with Mauro. I'm your host, Mauro Burnett. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm a board certified orthopedic specialist in physical therapy and the owner of Australian Physiotherapy Specialist, located here in Jacksonville, Florida. For today's video, we're going to kick off a series on cervicogenic headache disorders. For today's video, we're going to look at signs and symptoms of cervicogenic headache. We'll define what cervicogenic headache is, and then we're going to look at some easy tests that you could do at home to possibly identify if you may be having cervicogenic headaches. So let's get into this, and we're going to start with defining cervicogenic headaches. Let's define cervicogenic headache. I've got my spine model here. In the spine model, we've got the 7 vertebrae and the 8 nerves of the neck. Here is the C1 vertebra, C2, and then C3. And this is kind of the back of the head that we're showing here. You can see the yellow nerves coming out of the upper neck. C1, 2, and 3, these upper nerves, they're very interesting. When your upper neck becomes tight or sore or irritated, or maybe one of your joints are a little bit pinched, it can begin to irritate these upper neck nerves, which then can connect to other nerves that go off to your head and face. And this can cause a nasty headache and can turn into a migraine. That's what we would call a cervicogenic headache. Well, now that we've defined cervicogenic headache, let's talk a little bit more about the nerves that can wreak havoc on the head. One such nerve is called the occipital nerve. The occipital nerve attaches into the upper neck joints and muscles and can cause a terrible pain on the back of the skull, even maybe towards the top of the skull. Another such nerve is called the trigeminal nerve. The trigeminal nerve has 3 branches, like a tricycle with 3 wheels. The trigeminal has a branch above your eye, in your sinus cavity, and in your jaw. So if you're having irritation of your upper neck on the left, it is possible it could irritate the nerves of the trigeminal nerve, and now you could have a pain that could be above the head or above the eye in this forehead area. You could feel like maybe I'm having a sinus infection because it could really be irritated in the sinus area. It could tighten your jaw muscles and start to look like a TMJ problem. So TMJ problem and upper neck problems oftentimes go hand in hand. That's another symptom that could make you wonder if you're having this type of disorder. If you have headaches and you also have jaw tightness. Another symptom that I'll mention as well is dizziness. We've done lots of videos on cervical dizziness on this channel, but in this case, the focus is going to be a little bit more towards the headache, but it's really the same disorder. The upper neck could be headaches, it could be dizziness, it could be nausea, it could be TMJ tightness. So those are going to be some of our classic symptoms. Now, as far as different headache classifications, there's lots of headache classifications. The cervical headache could present like many other type headaches, so it's very difficult to vet out. It could be a one-sided headache. It could also cause both sides of your head to hurt. It can be worse on the right side most of the time, and then one day it's worse on the left side. You could have light sensitivity. You could have sound sensitivity. So it's a bit tricky to vet out. So we need a couple physical tests that we can do to try to look at, I definitely have headaches, but do I have those cervical components? So let's get into our first test, cervical range of motion. Our first test that we're going to look at that's easy to do at home is we're going to do a self-assessment of your cervical range of motion. It kind of goes like this. Turn to the left as far as you possibly can, and we're just looking for obvious pain or tightness. We can compare that to turning to the right as far as you can. We then can look at lower neck flexion and extension. Lower neck flexion looks like this. I flex my head down. Look to see if there's any pain or discomfort. Does it irritate my neck? Does it cause increased head pain? And then we look at lower cervical or lower neck extension. Finally, we can look at side to side range of motion. Does that cause pain or discomfort? Now let's look at two more tests that you can do very specific for the upper neck, because cervicogenic headaches are usually a product of your upper neck. The first one is doing upper neck flexion. The way this works is you bring your chin straight back like you're making a double chin, and we're looking to see, does that cause pain or tightness one side versus the other, right? So we'll do a side view of that. Bring it straight back, kind of like it's going straight back on a shelf. And we're looking to see if that's positive or not. Does it increase your headache? Does it make it better or worse? In some instances, this could actually be a treatment if you find that it makes your neck feel tight and sore. You try it a few times, and it could possibly loosen you up. The next test we're going to look at, now that we've looked at upper cervical flexion, is upper cervical extension. It kind of looks like this. It's a little funny. I'm going to drive my chin up and out at a 45 degrees. And if you'll notice, when I do that, it's going to cause a lot of extension right at the upper neck. So then we can test cervical extension, upper cervical extension, and upper cervical flexion to see if any of those are obviously positive or not. So that's going to be our first test. However, here's the tricky part. Sometimes you can have cervicogenic headaches and still have pretty good range of motion. In some instances, it's a strength and motor control loss. So that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to look at an easy test you can do at home to see if you've lost some obvious strength in the neck. Let's look at that test next. All right, for this test, we're going to do what's called the cervical liftoff test. It's an assessment of our muscle strength deep in the front of our neck. What we're going to do, I'm going to lay my head back, I'm going to tuck my chin in, I'm going to lift my head slightly, and I should be able to hold it for 20 or 30 seconds without too much shaking, pain, or discomfort. If we find that, boy, it gets really shaky and really sore within the first few seconds, that's definitely a positive test. On average, someone that hasn't had a lot of neck pain, we should be able to get 1 or 2 reps with about 20 to 30 seconds. So it kind of looks like this. If everything goes well, I should be able to hold this for a few seconds. So that gives us a good idea on how we can do that cervical liftoff test at home. Lying down on a pillow, tuck your chin in so it makes a crease at your jawline, lift your head off the pillow, maybe just a couple inches, and we're looking to see if you can hold for 20 to 30 seconds. Is it easy and very light effort, or does it take high effort? If it causes pain or discomfort right off the bat, obviously abort the test, put it back down. It was definitely positive. So that's going to be 2 tests that we can look at. And now we're going to get into the third test. We're going to look at cervical palpation. Our third test that we're going to look at is a palpation test. Palpation, we can do, it's a test of pushing into something to see if it's painful. It's a pretty simple test. We push and we look to see if someone says ouch, right? Our doctors have done this for centuries. So the upper neck, if I put my thumb right underneath the skull, just a little bit offset to the right, and I press in, I'm looking to see if that's painful or tight in the upper neck. Here's another viewpoint. Here's the right side, and then here's the left side. If you have obvious pain or tightness one side versus the other, especially if the side that's painful correlates to the side that you have headaches on more frequently, then that would be a positive palpation test for cervicogenic headache. Well, now that you have learned how to identify if you might be a cervicogenic headache sufferer, let's get into some of the best research-proven exercises to decrease cervicogenic headaches. For today's video, I'm really excited to share with you these 4 amazing exercises that were originally invented at the University of Queensland by a researcher named Gwen Jull. Very well respected all over the world in her neck expertise. She's published tons and tons of medical journal articles, and she's been a keynote speaker all around the world. If you've tried exercises on the internet for neck pain in the past, you've probably seen chin tucks and maybe some stretching. That's probably the most popular thing you're going to find on the internet. However, the stretching and the chin tucks can only take you so far. The reality of it is, when your neck gets sore, it weakens the inside protective muscles of the neck. Once that happens, it stays dormant. Your neck is now vulnerable, and this is what sets up chronic neck pain. Every episode that you have weakens your neck a little bit more. It makes you more likely to have another episode. So these exercises are going to solve that problem. They're going to get into that weakness that causes the recurrent episodes. It's going to build your strength and stability and internal protection back up. And that's where we get lasting relief. Let's get into the first exercise. For our first exercise, we're going to look at a shoulder blade retraction exercise. What this exercise is going to do is going to decrease pain and tightness at your upper shoulder. You have the upper trapezius muscle at the top of the shoulder, and you also have another muscle at the top of the shoulder called the levator scapulae. The levator scapulae muscle attaches into your neck, and when this muscle is tight and sore, it pulls on your neck and really begins to irritate your neck. There's tons of research that show if your shoulder is dysfunctional, it correlates with chronic neck pain. So if you're one of those people, maybe you work at a computer during the day, and you notice your shoulders kind of drift forward, or maybe they're up a little more than they should, or slightly rotated, that could feed into tightness of the upper trapezius muscle or that levator scapulae muscle. So here's an easy exercise that you can do that should give you immediate relief. Here's a cool test that you could do. Let's say you turn to the right and you notice it's painful on the right side of your neck. We're going to do this exercise a few reps, and immediately when you're finished, return to the right and see how that feels. I would say 9 out of 10 times you'll have an immediate relief. If it does, by the way, drop it in the comment section because I'd love to hear about it. Well, let's get into how this exercise works. I'm going to maybe show you at a couple different angles, but let's start with this side angle. So if my shoulder's a little bit forward, I drop this right shoulder, and I just bring my shoulder blade back ever so slightly so that it goes onto my chest wall. So it starts out a little bit forward, I let it relax slightly back onto my chest wall, and then I'm going to hold that for 10 seconds. Let's look at another angle. It's forward, it's up, I let it drop, gently back onto my chest wall, hold that for 10 seconds, and then relax. And then what you would do is you would try this exercise 5 to 10 reps, and you could easily do this twice a day. Moreover, when you're doing your daily activities, maybe if you're working on a computer, 3 to 4 times an hour, if you sit tall, bring your chin to level, relax your shoulders, and gently go against your chest wall, as we just mentioned, hold it for 10 seconds. That's a great exercise to do 3 or 4 times an hour, just 1 rep, 10 seconds every 15 minutes. And that's a great exercise for keeping that levator scapulae muscle relaxed, decreasing neck pain. Now let's get into exercise number 2. For exercise number 2, we're going to do push-up with a plus. Push-up with a plus is a great exercise for a muscle called the serratus anterior. The serratus anterior attaches into the inside of your shoulder blade, goes underneath your shoulder blade, and then attaches out to your ribs. It plays a very important role in shoulder function. It's very important for giving you the proper curve of your mid-back, and it's very important when we're doing neck rehab. We talked about earlier the first exercise that helps balance your shoulders so your shoulders are in better posture to take pressure off muscles like the upper trapezius and levator scapulae. So for this exercise, We're going to get on one of the tables in just a second. I'll show you how we're going to do it. But you're going to get on hands and knees. Then on hands and knees, what you're going to do is you gently lengthen your arms a little bit. Don't arch your back stays straight. You hold that for about 10 seconds if you can, and then relax. We're going to do 10 repeats. Gently elongate your arms, make your arms just about a ½ inch longer. So it's like you finished a push-up and you're going just a little bit extra. Fantastic exercise for that serratus anterior. 5 to 10 seconds if you can, relax. We do 10 reps. And that's a great one-time-a-day exercise that you can do to really start to rehab this neck and shoulder. Exercise number 3 is going to be neck extensions while on hands and knees. So you get on hands and knees position. This could be your bed, it could be a yoga mat, it could be area rug or carpet. Once you're on hands and knees position, you gently lower your head forward as far as you can comfortably, and then you gently return to where you started from. Lower the neck, think about letting it come forward, come back up, bring it back to neutral, cherry pick a range of motion that's comfortable, and you could easily work up to where you could do 3 or 4 sets of 10 of this exercise once a day. This can be a great exercise for re-strengthening the deep muscles in the back of the neck that provide stability and protection for your neck so that your chronic neck pain starts to become less chronic, more protected, and ultimately results in you being able to get out and do the things that you love a little bit more. Let's get into our next exercise, exercise number 4. For our last exercise, this one's called the craniocervical flexion exercise. It's an exercise that strengthens the muscles deep in the front of the neck. When your neck has been sore or it starts to have problems, of all the muscle groups that malfunction, none malfunction more than the deep cervical flexors. This muscle group can lose sometimes up to 50 to 75% of their strength and endurance. This is problematic for the neck. It'll allow your neck to kind of drift back into bad posture. If you get bumped suddenly, you need these deep neck flexor muscles to come on at the right timing to protect your vertebra so they don't get pulled into a pinch. So it's definitely worthwhile to take a few minutes and work on this every day. Get this muscle group functioning better for you, and you usually will see some pretty quick relief. A couple of studies even noticed if you did this exercise for about 3 minutes, you could get some immediate relief right after. Kind of like the test we said earlier. If you look to the right and you notice it's sore, try this exercise for 2 or 3 minutes, sit back up and retest it. You might find that you already are starting to get some relief. I'll give you one warning about the exercise. In certain conditions, you may have a lot of neurological tightness or nerve irritation at your upper neck. And if you go to do this exercise, it starts to make you feel bad, makes you dizzy, or gives you a headache. Obviously, discontinue, don't do the exercise. I would recommend you then maybe find a physiotherapist or physical therapist in your area, have them work with you a little bit to help you, and then maybe you could come back and revisit the exercise. But if everything's clear, doesn't give you a big problem, we're going to get into this exercise. Phenomenal, one of my favorites. So let's get into the exercise. The first part of doing this exercise is we're going to get lying down on possibly a small towel square, just so that your chin and forehead is level. If you don't have enough toweling, you might notice that your head is sloped back. But if you have too much toweling, the opposite could occur, where you're too nodded forward. So you want to get your chin and your forehead level. Now what we're going to do is you take one of your hands and you place it on the front of your neck to monitor the superficial muscles. The superficial muscles should stay relaxed throughout the entire exercise. Now we're going to do a gentle nodding action, very slow, very precise. We don't want to lift your head from the towel. All of your weight stays there. You hold that for 10 seconds, and then you gently return. If I do it properly, the outside muscles should stay fairly relaxed the entire time. If you notice that they're starting to get firm or they're really starting to get tight in your fingertips, then you may have nodded too far. I can't emphasize enough, it's just a gentle, precise exercise. Looking down at a 45-degree angle right before you slide down is also a great tip for helping to activate these deep neck flexors. So the exercise, you nod, look down, slide down, hold it for 10 seconds, relax for 3 or 4 seconds, and you could build up to where you could do 10 repeats. This would be a great exercise to do twice a day to give you some great deep neck flexor activation, bring that stability back to your neck, and to help kick this chronic neck pain. Well, now that you've completed the therapeutic exercise module of the video, let's dive into some manual therapy techniques that you can do to yourself at home quite easily that are clinically proven to give you relief from cervicogenic headaches. For today's video, we're going to keep it easy and simple for you. We're going to show you a great little technique that you can do to help headaches using a small, medium-sized towel. There was a great therapist from New Zealand. His name was Brian Mulligan. He had some great ideas on headaches, dizziness, etc. So we're going to highlight a couple of his techniques. The first technique that we're going to get into is called a headache snag. All you're going to need is a small, medium-sized towel. Grab the towel, meet me back here, and let's take a look at the technique. All right, well, hopefully you have your towel. I have my towel, medium-sized towel, and we're going to be interested in the sewn edge of the towel called the selvage. And this technique is for a cervicogenic headache. We've covered cervicogenic headaches on several videos prior. If you want more information in detail on what is a cervicogenic headache, what triggers it, what's the pathophysiology, all the anatomy stuff, check out some of our previous videos on our channel, Physio Tips with Mauro. You can get lots of details. But essentially, a cervicogenic headache is a headache that's emanating from irritated joints in the upper neck, C1, 2, and 3. That's going to irritate a lot of sensitive nerves at the base of the head, and it's going to refer and cause a bad headache. So for this technique, we're going to take the sewn edge of the towel, and we're going to place this sewn edge right at the base of our head. If you run your fingers down the back of your head, you're going to feel the first big bump right off of your skull. That first big bump near the top, that's called the C2 spinous process. I'll show you on the spine model what the C2 spinous process looks like. All right, so here we have C1 and here we have C2. If you can see at that angle, C2 stands out a lot more than the other ones. That's a big bone sticking out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that towel, and the towel, the edge, is going to grab right there. Okay, so that's from behind. Let's take and see what that looks like. So I take my towel, place it behind, right at that bump. This is a gentle technique. You're already having your cervicogenic headache. I'm going to gently hold it right in front. Then here's what I'm going to do. Very gently, I'm going to move my head backwards into the towel. Very gentle, so that there's a little bit of slack. I slowly take up that slack, very gentle, like 1% effort. And then what you're going to do is sustain that 6 to 10 seconds. 1010, 1009, 1008, 1007, 1006, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. So that's rep number 1. Too much pressure could be counterproductive. So again, it's a very gentle technique. You just very gently drive your head back just a smidge, takes up a little bit of the slack, and you hold it for 6 to 10 seconds. Okay, this would be repeated 6 to 10 times. 6 to 10 second hold, 6 to 10 reps. And then reassess your symptoms and see how you feel. When this works effectively, you should most times already feel some relief from your headache. The idea of why this works, and Mr. Mulligan's book, he writes that oftentimes, and there's a gliding malfunction somewhere in the upper 3 joints, and by doing this, it helps correct that gliding malfunction and takes off some of the pain. So that's going to be our headache snag. You could do this headache snag 3, 4, 5 times a day as needed. But if you feel a headache coming on, grab your towel, very gentle. It's going to take the slack up between those 2 joints, hold it for 6 to 10 seconds, and see how you did. All right, let's get into exercise number 2. This one's going to be for cervicogenic dizziness. All right, for exercise number 2, we're going to need our towel again. We're also going to use that same landmark, that C2 spinous process that we looked at earlier. In a scenario with cervicogenic dizziness, quite frequently you might notice that looking up causes a pretty good amount of dizziness, right? Again, like our cervicogenic headache talk earlier, cervicogenic dizziness is a dizziness that's triggered by a gliding malfunction of C1, 2, and 3. Several videos that in the past that we've done on this topic. So if you want to look at more details on cervicogenic dizziness, differentiating that from other forms of dizziness, check out Physio Tips Tomorrow, check out our channel, check out lots of our videos, and that will give you more detailed. But in this scenario, if you're already familiar with cervicogenic dizziness, you've been diagnosed with this, and you're looking for a home treatment that you can do, and you notice extension really causes the dizziness to come on, this could be a great easy technique to try. So I take the selvage of the towel again. I'm going to put the selvage of the towel right on that C2 spinous process, same location as earlier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently sustain that pressure over the C2 spinous process. And now I'm going to follow this rule. I'm going to go up in just a moment as far as I can comfortably while using the towel. But you want to follow a pain-free, dizzy-free, nausea-free only rule. If it's making you feel dizzy or nauseous or bad, don't do it. Come back down, reassess. Maybe you're not quite on the C2 spinous process. If for some reason it's only making you worse, don't do it. It's not indicated. But for the right person, the right time, if we get this right, you should have a complete shutdown of the dizziness. So I start, I look up as far as I can comfortably without dizziness. Okay, that feels pretty good. I'm not dizzy. And then I come back down. You could do this 6 to 10 reps. And this could be done every 2 hours or as needed. But that's a great technique to correct that gliding malfunction between C1 and C2 or C2, C3 and help with cervicogenic dizziness. Easy to do. You just need a medium-sized hand towel. Give it a go and drop us a comment and let us know how you did. If you got some relief, I'd love to hear from you. Avoiding the wrong exercises is a crucial step to prevent reoccurrence of cervicogenic headaches. Let's take a look at some of the worst exercise ideas on the internet for cervicogenic headaches. If you suffer neck pain, it's no joke, and it can be hard to live with. Neck problems can cause headaches, dizziness, nausea, pain down the arm. There's a lot of exercises on the internet on what to do to possibly get some relief. However, some of these exercises can even make you worse. So in this video, we're going to go over some of the worst exercises on the internet so you can avoid them, and then we'll give you a couple tips on what to do. Let's get in the video and we'll take a look. Thanks for tuning in for today's episode. Today's episode, we're going to go over 6 of the worst exercises that you can do while you're having neck pain. These exercises that we're going to look at, some of them are just non-specific. They don't have a lot of research evidence to support their efficacy, and others are just outright irritating and dangerous and could exacerbate your case. But before we get into exercise 1, let's talk a little bit about what happens when you're in the presence of neck pain. Having this background information is important when we see why some of these exercises are maybe not going to be so effective. The first thing that we want to talk about is tightness in the neck. A lot of my patients will say, wow, my biggest problem is tightness. Should I get a massage? Should I stretch? What should I do to get rid of this tightness? When we're talking about neck tightness, one thing that we need to mention is that the neck tightness is actually a symptom of the problem. It's not the main problem itself. Once your neck is insulted, maybe you slept on the couch wrong, maybe you had an injury, car accident, some type of trauma, there's a few predictable things that are going to happen. You have deep neck muscles inside the neck that stabilize the neck and protect it from the stresses of gravity as we're walking around. Those deep muscles will very quickly begin to atrophy. They'll get weaker. They typically behave in a very tonic fashion. They come on and stay on, but now they're going to start to behave in a more of a phasic. They go on and off. They sputter on and off. Reminds me of my college car. In this scenario, the outer muscles, the large muscles of the neck and the shoulders, the muscles there are going to start to become overly tight. Some experts kind of think of it as two people carrying a couch. One puts their end down and the other one has to work twice as hard. So if we want to get the tight muscles to relax, a great idea is we need to think about things differently. We need to think about turning back on the stability muscles to turn off the tight muscles. Now that we have this background information, let's look at exercise number 1. Exercise number 1, the chin tuck. The chin tuck is probably the most popular exercise that I found on the internet when looking for neck pain relief exercises. The chin tuck was invented by a very famous therapist from New Zealand named Robin McKenzie. The idea is if someone has a forward head posture, you bring your chin straight back, kind of in a straight line. It tucks it in, you hold it for a second, and you relax. McKenzie would say, okay, you go in, hold it just enough to say pressure on and pressure off. And you could do 10 reps of this. The idea is solid. Maybe your head is too far forward and it gives you this little stretch. You can stretch out some of the suboccipital muscles or those tight muscles at the base of your head. However, the exercise isn't the best to bring great stability to the neck. And if we do this mainly as a standalone, it could give us some temporary relief from the tightness, but we're going to find that the pain keeps coming back day after day after day. So the chin tuck can have some help, but it's also very limited because, as we mentioned before, we're not really getting to the heart of the problem. We're not getting to bringing back the stability to the neck. If we want to turn off the tight muscles, we've got to turn back on the right muscles. Let's look at exercise number 2. Exercise number 2, neck stretching. Neck stretching was the second most common exercise that I found on the internet for neck pain relief exercise. Neck stretching, at best, could maybe give some temporary relief. We've all seen these exercises where you pull the ear to your shoulder, you hold for a certain amount of time, you do a few reps. And usually it's thought if you do this a little bit every day, this will prevent your neck problems. However, when we mentioned before, when the neck starts to have pain, there's a lot of behind the scenes malfunctioning that occurs. It requires a very specific rehab strategy to overcome some of these chronic neck problems. Neck stretching, unfortunately, is not quite specific enough to deal with all of those problems. At best, it might give some temporary relief, and at worst, stretching into a inflamed nerve or inflamed disc can easily irritate and increase your neck pain after you're finished with your stretching routine. So when it comes to neck stretching, it's not quite like the hamstring that we stretch out in our sports players. Watch out, be careful. It could very easily make your situation worse. Exercise number 3, the corner stretch. The corner stretch is a very popular exercise prescribed to patients all over the world that have suffered neck pain. The idea goes like this. Maybe you have bad posture, your shoulders are forward, your head is forward, and this could lead to tightness in your anterior chest muscles like the pectoralis major. So one exercise could be you go into the corner of the room, put one hand on each wall, and you let yourself stretch forward. The idea is that this could help with your posture and help relieve neck pain. I would say as a standalone, this exercise, again, kind of has limited efficacy. The exercise has never really been shown to be effective for decreasing headaches or decreasing dizziness or decreasing arm pain. And maybe a better way to do this exercise, if we don't want to have these rounded shoulders, is more of an active approach. That's kind of the theme of this whole video, looking at more of active versus passive exercises. So an active exercise might look like this. A little bit tall through the crown of my head, my chin level, got a decent posture. I relax my shoulders and in a gentle way, slightly bring my shoulder blades back and down, maybe a centimeter. Hold this exercise for 10 seconds and then relax. Tall, relax your shoulders, gently bring it back, and maybe you could do this 5 or 10 reps. It's a great exercise to bring strength and stability back to your shoulder blade muscles and stretch out your chest at the same time. In my opinion, this is a better way to go than just lying down on maybe a foam roller. and stretching your back, or even getting into the corner and stretching. Getting into the corner and stretching could place your head too far forward, which could put strain on your neck. And lying on your back on the foam roller, if your neck's really sore, sometimes it's hard to get your neck just right, and that could irritate your neck and cause tingling or pain down your arms. The seated version, if it doesn't cause pain down your arms, if it doesn't increase your neck pain, could be the way to go. Let's get into the next exercise. Exercise number 4, neck isometrics. Neck isometrics are another very popular exercise that are prescribed in physical therapy clinics around the world. The idea is you want to strengthen your neck, so you put one hand on the side of your neck and you press, hold, maybe submaximally for 5 seconds, and relax, and you do a series of reps. The problem with this exercise, one, it's mainly working the large muscles of the neck. Sometimes we can think of the muscles of the neck as the really large outer muscles. We can think of those as movement muscles. They lift our head off the pillow. They're very strong. If we were in a rugby match and we're putting our head down and pressing against someone else, that would be the activity of our large muscle groups. Our small muscle groups, I like to think of those more as internal stabilizers. They give us the fine motion between one vertebra moving on another. The inside muscles are usually the ones that malfunction the most when you've had chronic neck pain. The outside muscles become tight, the inside muscles malfunction. So an exercise where I'm just pressing and holding and maybe side to side, maybe forward, maybe back, the difficulty or maybe the lack of specificity of this exercise is that it's mainly an exercise for the large muscles. It's not quite specific enough to really activate the deep muscles. The deep muscles are activated by resisting gravity. So a better way to do this is off and on during your day, especially if you sit at a computer, maybe every 15 minutes. If you sit a little bit tall, bring your chin to level, relax your shoulders, and hold this posture, you're now activating your deep muscles in the front and back of your neck. We could think of those as the core muscles, just by resisting gravity and not letting your spine sag. If you let your spine sag or sit back or sit slouched or lie down a lot, those deep stabilizing muscles are definitely going to get weaker. So resisting gravity, standing, walking, moving, choosing these tall postures is a much better way to target the deep muscles versus something non-specific like this, which is probably going to target more of your large muscles, which are already too tight to begin with. So watch out for non-specific isometrics. Exercise number 5, strong scapular retractions. Scapular retraction exercise is also a very frequent exercise prescribed for someone with neck pain throughout physical therapy centers everywhere. The idea is a solid idea. With neck pain, clinical studies have shown you could end up developing weakness of some of your shoulder blade or scapular muscle, like the middle trapezius and the lower trapezius. So there's different variations of this exercise on the internet. But one of the things that I've seen when doing the search that I would say be careful with is very strong versions of the scapula retraction exercise, where you squeeze your shoulder blade back kind of aggressively, hold it for a certain duration of time, and relax. Or maybe even pulling the arms out in this direction. Some of the best experts in the world have come out of the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia. Folks like Professor Gwen Jull. And if you study with Dr. Jull and you learn some of her exercises, you find that it's probably better to do scapular exercises in the presence of neck pain, maybe arm pain, maybe headaches, in more of a gentle fashion. You relax the shoulders, gently bring the scapula back and down, but make sure that it's pain-free. Haphazardly doing this or a strong aggressive approach, especially if maybe you're having neck pain that could go down the arm, could easily make this worse. Even with my patients, when I do it gently, if the nerves of the neck are really irritated, sometimes I have to put a pin in this exercise. Let's do some other things. Let's get you feeling better, and we'll come back to it when your nerves calm down. So if you're doing this exercise kind of in a strong manner, if you see some of these exercise tips on the internet, watch out and be careful. In my opinion, doing it in a more soft approach is probably going to be a bit safer and more likely to keep you from flaring up your neck condition. Exercise number 6, Strong TheraBand exercises. Strong TheraBand exercises is another exercise that I've seen when doing research on neck relief exercises. For a high-level athlete or minor neck problem, this might be okay. But if you have serious neck problems, headaches, dizziness, nausea, your neck's very unstable, very easy to irritate, then I would say be careful with this as a starter exercise. Maybe do some other exercises to build your strength up and save this exercise when your neck is doing a little bit better. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Here's a piece of TheraBand, maybe medium strength. And if you've seen some of these exercises on the internet, the person holds the TheraBand and they press back and relax, maybe holding for a certain duration of time. Again, for a high-level athlete or maybe minor neck pain, this might be a decent strategy to help strengthen some of the larger muscles of the neck. But if you're looking for strengthening those deep stabilizers, then this may not be quite specific enough to go after those particular muscles. So I would save this exercise to the very end. If this exercise is introduced too early into the rehab, it could easily flare up your neck and maybe make your headaches or dizziness worse, or could even exacerbate arm symptoms. Finally, we're left with one very important question. What do I have to do to prevent cervicogenic headaches from coming back? For today's video, we're going to define cervicogenic headache. We're going to look at the question of bed rest. Is bed rest harmful, or does bed rest help cervicogenic headaches? And then finally, we're going to give you 3 simple things that you can do to start help alleviating some pain. Okay, let's start with defining cervicogenic headache. Cervicogenic headache is a headache that's generated by pain at the base of the head. You have 7 neck vertebrae, especially C1, 2, and 3. When it's irritated or inflamed because of its neural connections, it can refer pain to the head. Okay, so in this scenario, the headache is being generated from the spine. That brings up the next question, bed rest. My patients frequently tell me when they have a bad headache, sometimes the only thing that feels better is to get in a dark room and lie down. If you've had bad headaches before, you've probably been there, done that. The next question is, you might find yourself lying down very frequently. If I lie down frequently, is that harming the headache disorder, or is that helping the headache disorder? For cervicogenic headaches, research has shown that bed rest or low gravity positioning starts to cause irreversible damage to the intervertebral discs. I've got my spine here with me, and I'll kind of show you this front end where you can see the intervertebral discs here in the spine, right? And the disc itself, the outer edge is made of cartilage, and the inner center is made up of protein-filled fluid called the nucleus pulposus. When you're sleeping at night, when we normally are in recumbent positions, the discs suck in fluid and the discs will swell. So when you first wake up in the morning, guess what? You're the tallest you are throughout the whole day. As you stand and walk around during the daytime, under the weight of gravity, the discs that took in that fluid during the nighttime will expel some of that excessive fluid, up to about 25%. And then our height returns to our normal size again. This is the normal process of fluid going in and out of the discs. However, if we stay in a recumbent position or stay in bed rest, studies are showing, just like spaceflight is harmful for the astronauts, bed rest is harmful for our backs. Our discs stay in this swollen state, and now research is showing that that can damage the disc. Here's an example of an intervertebral disc. Under load, the disc compresses, and now it takes its normal shape, its normal height. But when we unload the disc in bed rest, the disc begins to swell. So here it's compressed, and here it begins to swell. And swelling over long periods of time, the research now shows is very harmful for our discs. So not only is bed rest harmful for our intervertebral discs, but it's also harmful for our muscle system that holds us up against gravity. Essentially, if we're not challenging our spine up against gravity, our brain starts to think, I don't need strong spine muscles anymore, and I don't need strong spine bones. So we start to see select atrophy or wasting of the very important stabilizer muscles of the neck. We need those to have a pain-free neck. We need those to not have cervicogenic headaches. Not only do the stabilizer deep muscles of the neck atrophy, but the larger movement muscles of the neck, the large multi-joint muscles, they start to become very tight. And this sets up a pretty terrible muscular imbalance. Well, now that we've discussed the harm that bed rest can do to the spine, let's look at a couple tips that we can do to reverse some of this atrophy and bring some health back to the spine. Okay, tip number 1, we're going to look at changing our sitting posture to activate our spinal muscles. Deborah Falla was a researcher from England, and she showed through one of her research studies that if we sit in a particular way, we can activate our important core stabilizing muscles and start to deactivate that tightness of your other neck muscles. This will help relieve some pain on your neck. Okay, step 1 for improving my sitting posture is I need to think about my low back, the curve of my low back. If I sit all the way back on my butt bones, that's one extreme. And then if I rock forward all the way off my butt bones, that's another. And then I'm going to come down to a nice middle position. That's going to put my lower back in a neutral position. Next, I need to think about my shoulder position. If my shoulders are up or raised forward, I need to drop them and very gently glide them back over the back of my chest wall towards my spine. Very soft. Now I'm going to get my chin in the right position. If my chin is excessively up, I'm going to start to lower my chin until my chin is neutral. I don't want my chin too far forward, and I definitely don't want it too far up. Too far up leads to tightness in the muscles at the base of the head and weakness in the front of the neck. So that's step number 1. Correct the low back posture, find the middle position. Look at your shoulders, maybe relax, gently bring them back and down towards your spine, and get your chin nice and neutral. If we can correct these 3 positions, now we're off to a good start. If you're an office worker and you sit all day, every 15 minutes, a nice strategy is get into this posture, hold it for 10 seconds, and then relax and go back to work. 15 minutes later, you try it again. Find the neutral low back, get the chin in neutral, relax the shoulders gently back and down, and this can be a great strategy to help. Now we're going to get into tip number 2, how to get a good posture while standing. Okay, let's discuss tip number 2, correcting your posture in standing. Here's a great tip that will increase a little bit of healthy gravitational stress on your spine that will relax your tight muscles and activate your core protective muscles. Here's how it works. I'm going to gently stretch tall through the crown of my head, gently bring my chin to level, shoulders relaxed, and I'm going to hold this posture for 6 to 10 seconds. At the end, I relax. This could be a great exercise that you could do every 15 minutes while you're maybe at your standing desk at your job, if you do a sitting or standing desk. When you increase your posture by doing this, you're getting increased gravitational stress on your spine, which does all the good stuff that we talked about earlier. Great exercise to try. Couple tips. If your neck is really sore, your head's really sore already, your back's really sore, go at this easy. Very gently try to find the height that you're supposed to be. If you're 6 feet tall, gently try to recapture 6 feet. But don't try to make yourself 6 feet 3 or 6 feet 4. That over elongation could stress your neck and make your headache even feel worse. But if you can do this, it doesn't make your headache worse, it's a great way to get some exercise. For the last tip that we're going to give you, the 3 for 30 rule. The way this works is every 30 minutes that you're sitting, if you can find yourself getting up out of your chair, find that tall posture that we just did, and walk around for 2 or 3 minutes. As you do this, you're getting a really healthy dose of gravitational stress on your spine. It's helping your discs, it's helping your muscles, it's helping your joints. Great exercise to do. It seems like such a simple thing to do, but I've had such good success with my patients. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Sitting posture correction, standing posture correction, and the 3 for 30 rule. 3 tips that you can do to really start to alleviate some neck and back pain. Well, thanks for watching today's video on cervicogenic headache relief. I hope you got something good out of it. Don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know what you think if you tried some of the exercises and it gave you some relief. We'd love to hear success stories. Remember, you could like this video and subscribe to our channel to receive more videos like this in the future. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time on Physio Tips Tomorrow.